Good morning, guys. You're watching the Mega-Transect. I'm Professor Michael McGrann. I'm here with my wildlife videographer, Jacob Drueckhammer.
How's it going?
Jacob's trying to film a pygmy nuthatch nest right here. Really difficult angle. We're hiking all 2,650 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail while documenting all the wildlife that we see and hear. We're on mile about 180. We're ascending Mount San Jacinto, and we're seeing all kinds of wildlife diversity as we're climbing up this mountain. Stick with us to the end of the video to see everything that we encountered. So we're just coming off the town Resupply at Idyllwild. Sometimes it's hard coming out of town. It's kind of like a hiker trap. You feel soft and it's all cushy in town, and you feel soft coming back on the trail. Your pack's heavy. You have water, you have food. It's also a good feeling because you know you have what you need, but in the back of my mind, there's always a nagging sensation that I forgot something. But it's good to get back into the trail rhythm, back into the rhythm of trail life.
So hard to focus on them.
Wrentits are very difficult to film because they like to remain undercover, and they're very shy, they're very secretive. It's an adaptation to escape predation. They have this ping pong ball song. I kind of describe it like a bouncing ping pong ball as you're bouncing it on the ping pong table and you move the paddle closer and closer and closer. We're still on the edge of Chaparral here, Chemise, red shank Chaparral, at about 5,000 feet. What's interesting is we're working our way into pinyon pine, but this isn't just the more common pinyon pine. On this portion of the PCT, it's Parry's pinyon pine. So it has actually 4 needles to a bunch. Most pinions are single leaf pinyon, but this is Parry's pinyon. So less common on the PCT, occurs just here as we're summiting Mount San Jacinto, further south on the PCT. Further north, we'll get into single leaf pinyon pine. So we're above 6,000 feet here, yet we're still getting some desert species at this elevation, which I'm somewhat surprised. Jacob's filming a Scott's Oriole, which I typically associate with desert scrub habitat. Even though we're at over 6,000 feet in the Southern California mountains, the desert vegetation tends to hold on a bit longer as you're climbing in elevation. And not to sound too cliche, but the desert isn't that far as the bird flies, as you can see. Just down the hill there is the desert. So although we're dense chaparral in here, looks like mixed chaparral, we have chemise, scrub oak, but we also have these yucca stalks, which are a very important food source for Scott's Oriole. Scott's Oriole will feed on the fruit of these yucca stalks and also insects that are attracted to them. This shrub right here is in the Prunus genus, Prunus species. Not sure what species. Here's what the flowers look like. This is very common in the Sierra Nevada, these types of shrubs and prunus species. So as we ascend San Jacinto, it's kind of our first taste of what the Sierra Nevada will feel like when we get there before we drop that back down into the desert again. Hearing a mountain chickadee. Oh, I'm seeing a mountain chickadee. You'll see movement out there, just kind of keep an eye out here. So we're gaining elevation. We're at roughly somewhere over 6,500 feet. There he is, perched on that shrub there. The apex, you got him. So it's interesting, as we're getting higher, we're still in this chaparral, kind of scrubby oak chaparral, scrub oak, with some prunus species intermixed here. I'd almost describe this as montane chaparral because it's higher elevation. Yet we're not in, forest yet. We're not in trees or conifer. So I'm kind of surprised to see mountain chickadee in here. This seems like this would be marginal habitat. Yet we saw these chickadees foraging on something in this scrub oak. It could be, I was trying to figure out what it was just through my binoculars. They seem to be kind of hatching something. They're feeding like a nuthatch would feed. Interesting to see the feeding behavior. If you look closely, you can see that this chickadee is removing these small, red, berry-like structures from this scrub oak. This is actually the early stage of acorn development. These are actually budding acorns. Mountain chickadees are normally arboreal or tree-loving birds, feeding primarily on insects, but they're also resident species, meaning they are present year-round, and for that reason switch to feeding on plant material in certain times of the year. Here at this location, these chickadees are taking advantage of these budding acorns, which are a very nutritious source of food. But this isn't typical mountain chickadee habitat. Usually they're an arboreal species. They're up higher in the canopy. But as you can see here, there's nothing growing in tree form really in this area. Yet we're getting mountain chickadee.
Hello!
There's Jacob. There's Mount San Jacinto.
All the way out there.
Over 11,000 feet, which we'll summit in a couple days. Saw what appeared to be golden crowned sparrow, a large group of them in these shrubs here. Looks like scrub oak. But only got a fleeting glimpse, and then we lost him. For about the next 15 miles, the PCT follows a waterless ridgeline, and the only way to access water are at off-trail springs. We decide to camp at Cedar Springs, which is about a mile off the trail. Nice little spot here at, what is it called?
What types of trees are these?
Cedar Springs.
There you go.
Incense cedar here, and you got some black oak. It's beautiful. So,
cool.
Yeah, good job.
All right.
Cool.
All right.
Magic ability to set up our tents.
Yeah. Perfect.
Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Jacob. Good morning, Jacob. Doing okay?
Huh?
Good morning. Ready to start the day?
More or less.
Lots of birds in here around this spring. We're in this little forested grove around Cedar Spring, so there's a lot of bird diversity in here. We have black oak, incense cedar, and some other conifers as well. So you had a rough night last night, Jacob?
Yeah, I slept so bad. I slept worse last night than I did the night before in town when I only got like 5 hours of sleep.
Uh-huh.
So pretty sure it's just part of the acclimation process. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then I also popped like 3 blisters right before I went to bed.
It's actually
So-
quite a pleasant spot. It was a little chilly last night, but this is a really pleasant campsite.
Yeah, as pleasant as the campsite may be, this sleep wasn't. I just kept tossing and turning. So
It just means you'll sleep all the much better tonight.
maybe I'm stressing about my girlfriend getting the cat.
You gotta let go.
I already did. I already told her. I'm like, you can get the cat as long as I get to help name it. And she said, okay.
Just think that someday you're gonna get married.
And I told her that she has to bring it to the trail at some point and see the cat.
Someday you're gonna get married. You're gonna have much bigger decisions to make, like kids.
Then a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're doing good, Jacob. We're doing good.
Yeah, we're doing good.
There's a lot of bird diversity here in this wooded area around the spring. Mountain Chickadee here has a different dialect than what we hear in the Sierra. In the Sierra, it's cheeseburger. That's the song. Cheeseburger. And in Mount Laguna, they have a jazzier song. It's cheeseburger. While here they sing, 3 blind mice, 3 blind mice. So it's interesting, they have different dialects here. Each one of these mountain ranges in the desert, these desert mountains that the PCT ascends and descends that are forested at the mountain tops, seems to isolate the populations. At least that's my hypothesis. And you get different dialects that form. And so we got a sample of one mountain chickadee singing here, doing his 3 blind mice song. We also heard a white-breasted nuthatch, another woodland species. There's actually quite a few species in here that we're hearing, but we don't have time to capture them all. We got to cover some distance today. Okay, so we're about a mile off the PCT. We had to come down to Cedar Spring to both get water and camp. And we went down about 300 feet in elevation. So we have to climb back up to the PCT and then start heading north again. We're getting up higher now. We're over 7,000 feet. Look at all this beautiful white fur. It's really nice to be in the trees as we're walking along this ridge approaching Mount San Jacinto. We're in a stand of white fir forest right here. And Jacob is filming a olive-sided flycatcher. Olive-sided flycatchers have fairly large territories, so they'll perch on a prominent tree on the apex of that tree. And they have this very loud song that kind of proclaims their territory. A lot of wildlife biologists describe it as, quick, 3 beers, quick, 3 beers. It's kind of a wildlife biologist thing. So olive-sided flycatchers, like all flycatchers, their song is innate, meaning that it's genetically pre-programmed. They don't learn their song. So olive-sided flycatcher in Southern California sounds like olive-sided flycatcher further north on the PCT. So it's very distinctive, that quick 3 beers. Again, that's just it's a wildlife biologist joke. So we're definitely getting into the forested habitat, and we're seeing a lot more forest species up at this elevation. And we will continue to climb. We'll get into the subalpine as well. He's perched in this snag on a branch, and then he'll hawk. But he's doing it right now. He'll hawk, fly down low, catch some insects with his bill, and then return to the same perch. So what you can see here is that flycatchers have sort of a widened, flattened bill, which is thought to make it easier for them to catch insects in midair, hence their name, flycatcher. You hear the mountain chickadee?
I do.
That's how they sing here. 3 blind mice. Oh, fun little obstacle course.
Nice.
Hey, I did that one pretty gracefully.
Yeah. Nice. A little bit of parkour action going on.
Jacob's much more agile than I am. So we just did another side trip about 0.6 miles off the trail at Patchy Spring. 500-foot decline down there in 0.6 miles. And then turned around and came back for 2 liters of water. All the water along this ridge is off trail, so it's kind of slowing us down a bit, but that's okay. We got green-tailed towhee here. So as you get into the upper Chaparral, like the upper Montaigne Chaparral, you get green-tailed towhees in this habitat. Starting to get into the mixed conifer habitat here. Here's sugar pine, beautiful sugar pine tree. They have these enormous, like 2-foot long pine cones. You can see one down there, it's way down there. Jacob. We're gonna camp here on this ridge. Here's our view. We are done for today. We had Couple of off-trail waters. A lot of elevation change, very steep trail in places. It was a tough day today. Jacob didn't sleep well last night. How you doing, Jacob?
Well, I'm tired.
You're tired. We were still productive today. Good job.
All right.
It was a tough day today, so we're gonna call it good. Jacob's setting up camp right here. It's amazing to me. He's singing right here. It's amazing to me how high the spotted toadies will come up here in Southern California. I don't know where we're at, somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 feet. And we're still getting spotted toadies up at this elevation in the Chaparral. Good morning. Look at our view this morning. This is where we camped. Jacob slept a little bit better last night. We have a big day today. We're gonna summit Mount San Jacinto. It's about 9 miles from here. And then start going down.
Exciting stuff.
Down to the desert floor.
I don't know about the desert floor being exciting, but everything else sounds exciting.
Well,
It's a different type of exciting. How about that?
yeah, we'll probably still, tonight we'll be camped pretty high. But tomorrow we'll be working our way down the desert floor.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to focus on covering some distance today, but we'll still try to get some filming in. So let's see how it goes. Your mom's gonna be like, well, why did you let him do that?
Just checking stability of stuff.
Good job.
Wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
Nah.
So beautiful out here. It's insane, actually, the beauty of this place.
You might zoom out a bit. So Jacob's getting footage of house wren right now. Sometimes in these burned areas, actually quite often when you have a burn that comes through, like what we have right here, there's a process of succession. So after a fire comes through, this fire is probably 15, 20 years ago, the shrub layer comes in first, it reestablishes. What comes in first are the excavators, the birds that excavate their own cavities. And then you have secondary nesters that come in. So there's a process of succession. And you have secondary nesters. So house wren, what we have here, is a secondary nester, secondary cavity nester. It uses the cavities that other birds like woodpeckers or other birds have excavated. And if you look at this snag here, we also got violet green swallow in this snag. And you can see a number of cavities which were probably originally excavated by woodpeckers that came in after the fire. And now the violet green swallows are using it as a nest site. So fire is a natural part of the disturbance regime in these ecosystems. It creates habitats or habitat elements for other species. So fire has benefits to certain species. I would describe this as subalpine conifer. It's been impacted by a fire probably about 20 years ago is my guess. We have foxsparrow in here. We're definitely getting into the higher elevation bird species. They love the shrub understory, the high montane chaparral with the chinkopin. I see some, looks like golden chinkopin is the shrub layer, or the shrub species here. When with all these snags, like I was talking about earlier, and the woodpeckers love them, including this red-breasted sapsucker, because the snags are a source of food. You have wood-boring beetles that come in, and the woodpeckers will feed on the wood-boring beetles. So the snags attract insects, the woodpeckers excavate cavities, and then you have secondary cavity nesters that come in.
I'll record one more thing real quick.
Sure.
Face it towards me.
Okay.
Give me just a second. I want to try something.
Oh, hey.
That's all I wanted.
That was pretty sneaky.
We got snow. We have snow.
Really sneaky.
Oh my.
Maybe.
Uh-oh. I think I would keep hiking down the trails.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
A little payback. Jacob's letting go his what is it? Suppressed frustration with me.
Yeah, there you go.
Very different environment from the Chaparral that we've been hiking through. Very refreshing. So we're in this very Sierra-esque forest with mixed conifers. It looks like we have Jeffrey pine in here, perhaps western white pine, white fir. Very pleasant. Nice relief. So we're in this dense white fir forest, and whenever you get dense fir forest, it's very common to get red-breasted nuthatch. Red-breasted nuthatch, I like to describe its song like imagining an elf in the forest with this little tin horn, playing his tin horn over and over and over again. Red-breasted nuthatches, like most nuthatches, will find seeds and lodge them in like a crevice to dehusk them, to feed on them. Or you could be feeding on an insect here, maybe just removing the exoskeleton. But it's really nice to be in this dense fir forest. It feels like the Sierra in here after hiking through the Chaparral for the past 2 weeks. Sometimes I'll describe birds in terms of where they're positioned in the different layers of the habitat. So you have sort of a tree layer, you have a shrub layer, and then you have a ground layer. And dark-eyed juncos, which we have here, I describe as ground-loving birds. And sometimes you'll have shrub-loving birds. And then you'll also have arboreal, or tree-loving birds. So here, the dark-eyed juncos often are found on the ground feeding or foraging here for various things. Might be seeds or invertebrates or various other food items. Dark-eyed junco is a very common bird. It's actually one of her favorite birds. She describes it as the executioner bird with the dark black hood Reminds you of a medieval executioner. We took a much needed water break as we were nearing the summit of Mount San Jacinto. We're well over 10,000 feet here. We're climbing Mount San Jacinto, and I noticed a 5-needle pine here. Has needles in bunches of 5, as you can see right here. There's 5 needles there. It's not white bark pine, it's limber pine here. Limber pine. Anyway, working our way up to the top. Whew. It's a doozy. I feel the altitude. I'm not quite acclimated to the altitude yet. How you doing, Jacob?
Tired.
You made it!
Right?
Where was Petrichor?
Taking a nap?
Is he? Oh, seriously?
Really? He's at the junction. He said he was going to take a little cat nap before he summits.
Yeah, we're on top of Mount San Jacinto, almost 11,000 feet. Here's our view.
Made it.
We made it. Good job, Jacob.
Made it.
Some other through hikers down there. There's San Gorgonio way out there.
Check out this view, guys. Man. It's definitely a hike.
Yeah.
Look at that. Wow.
Nice job, Jacob. He's the man. There you go, Jacob.
Good job, man.
Nice job. Getting some major vertical, looking straight down, all the way down to Palm Springs. After summiting Mount San Jacinto, we hiked down the trail a couple miles to about 9,000 feet where we camped that night. We have a big hike the next morning. We're planning on doing over 20 miles and descending about 8,000 feet, roughly. Good morning. We're going to try to push a 20-mile hike today. Yellow-rumped warbler is an elevational migrant. They winter down at lower elevations but breed at high elevations. We're in the lodgepole pines here at about roughly 9,000 feet. Lodgepole pines have needles of 2. So in most cases you have pines that are either 2, 3, or 5 bunches, or 5 needles to a bunch. As we're climbing down from Mount San Jacinto, we're in this white fir forest, and we have a pretty dense understory of chinkopin right here, chinkopin and mountain whitethorn. And we have 2 higher elevation shrub-loving species here, fox sparrow and green-tailed towhee. The song of fox sparrow sounds very similar to green-tailed towhee. So it's, for a lot of field ornithologists in this area, an important skill is to learn how to distinguish their songs. Because they often occur together in the same habitat. Fox sparrow has this rich, beautiful song. Very liquid and fluid sounding. While green-tailed towhee is more trilly or buzzier quality to it. But certain portions of the song can sound very similar. We filmed this green-tailed towhee doing an interesting wing display or wing dance, perhaps a territorial display. Jacob's trying to film a pygmy nuthatch nest right here at this cavity nest here on this snag. And just really difficult angle. We're in Jeffrey Pine again. I often get pygmies with Jeffrey Pine. Black-throated gray warbler here. As we descend down rapidly on the trail, we're entering into montane hardwood conifer, so a mix of hardwood and conifer here. Black-throated gray warblers tend to prefer that hardwood conifer mix. We're probably at the very upper end of their range right here, but we're starting to get into some of this scrub oak as we drop down into the chaparral. So we still have about 4,000 to 5,000 feet to drop down into the low desert, but we're up here in the fir forest and surrounded by western white pine and white fir. But we're dropping down to that desert, to I-10, Interstate 10. We're gonna cross it and then climb back up. So we're heading down to that canyon. We can see it for the longest time. It just takes a long time to get down there. It's about 12 miles down to the bottom of that canyon on the trail. That's Snow Creek. And there's an aqueduct down there that feeds water from Mount San Jacinto to Palm Springs and Palm Desert. And there's a little spigot where we can get water out of the aqueduct. That's our goal today. Good job, Jacob.
200 miles, let's go.
We were up there.
All the way up there.
This morning. And now we're going down there this evening.
Yeah, it's been just over 16 miles with 7,000 feet of descent so far.
Yeah.
Maybe about 17 miles, and well, you can see we still have to go all the way down there.
It's not that far though. We can do it. Let's do it.
We got this. 200 miles. Let's go.
We're finally here at the water spigot. Take a look at the water spigot over there. That's what we're trying to get to. I'm not sure if I'm more tired, thirsty, or hungry. How do you feel, Jacob?
You can't see me, but I don't know whether to cry or sleep or drink or eat but we're here. 22 miles, 9,200 feet of descent today. Brutal.
It was, yeah. Every muscle and bone and tendon in my foot, it hurts right now. Feet.
Oh, jeez.
All right, let's set up camp. Let's get some sleep.
Please subscribe and stay tuned as we continue this natural history series across all 2,650 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail.